Hello, everyone. I'm Vlad Gosman from Involve Me, and today with me I have Aidan Brannigan, founder of No Boring Brands. Thank you, Aidan, for being here.
Stoked to be here. Very excited to be here.
Awesome. I'm a fan of No Boring Brands. I'm not a customer yet, but after this podcast, we might you might convince me. For everybody who tunes in and who doesn't know, who are you?
That's a good question. Um, so, it's kind of weird to say this, but I did benefit from COVID a little bit in a sense. When COVID hit, I was a freshman in college, freshman at university, and so had so much time on my hands, and school was super easy. So I started working at startups, and 18-year-old kid at the time working at startups, typically they're like, oh, you're young, run our socials, run our social media, make memes or whatever. So that was my first foray into content. And throughout my 4 years of college, I kind of just worked at different media companies, tech companies, startups, and really just got my foot in the door in the content world. And that kind of snowballed into like a full-time role with this company called the Marketing Millennials, which is one of the biggest marketing media brands in B2B. Over 1 million followers. We're reaching over 300 million people per year. And then that kind of just snowballed into, in October, I left the Marketing Millennials, and now I run No Boring Brands, which is a creative humor agency, which basically that means we help B2B brands, like traditional boring brands, reach more of their ideal client through like humor, whether it be skits or memes. So long story short, I just go viral on social media a lot through humor.
Okay, yeah, we gotta dig deeper into that. Super excited to find out and to like give also examples to the listeners. But maybe to take a step back, what? So, what inspired you to really focus on humor as the centerpiece, the core of your sort of marketing agency?
So there's this guy Naval Ravikant. He's like a modern day philosopher, and I really really admire him. And something he talks about a lot is doing more of what you did naturally as a kid that you assumed everyone else could do just as well as you because it came naturally to you. So for me, that was humor and wit. Like up until I was probably 20, I just assumed everyone would be able to be as quick on their feet as me when someone comes at me with like a, a, a joke and I can punch back. But then I realized after reading that, like, I just assumed that because it came naturally to me. And so when you pursue those sorts of things, you can do it longer, better, faster than everyone else, and you enjoy it more. And that's a humongous competitive edge. So that's one of the reasons. But also, I am younger, and like I had basically this super niche and narrow expertise that no matter who I was talking to, no matter how many years of experience they have, I was definitely the expert. And it was this slice of crossover between social media, organic social media, and humor. And like, so I realized I can leverage this. So I can get on calls with the CEO of a $100 billion company, and I know confidently I'm the expert. So that's like how it's those two things. And we can go into it more deeply, but I'm a huge Naval Ravikant fan. And I have a quote of his on my website because I love him so much.
Oh wow, that's so. Shout out to Naval.
Yeah.
For the ones who don't know, Naval, among many things, is the founder of AngelList.
Yep.
And I'm very curious, and he's very active on social, putting out a lot of his philosophies out there. So definitely a tip to follow. What is the quote that you are that you have on your website?
I can read it exactly out. I don't want to butcher it, but it's something to that extent. Here, I have it up. Specific knowledge is found much more by pursuing your innate talents, your genuine curiosity, and your passion. Figure out what you were doing as a kid or teenager effortlessly, something you didn't even consider a skill, but people around you noticed. And basically, that's just saying what you should pursue. Instead of like a blanket statement like, do what you're passionate about. It's
Right.
like, do what you're naturally 10 times better at than everyone else, and that's how you build like a competitive advantage.
That's nice. That's a quote to follow.
Yeah.
But so how do you connect that though to B2B, like the B2B space? I mean, is it because it's so dry? What is?
Yeah, I just saw a gap, right? So I worked at the Marketing Millennials, and it's a B2B like focused media company. So Daniel Murray's the founder, and we were just super focused on bringing case studies and bringing tips and advice and high quality interviews for a B2B marketer experience, and so they can consume this content and become better at their job. So I was there for almost 2.5 years, and I was just doing like anything and everything. Anything they needed help with, I was just doing, because I was young, and like I want to get my hands on things. And so that was just my initial experience. And then I realized, having done freelance work for other companies over the last 18 months, I would work with D2C brands. I'd work with small CPG brands or like B2C companies, and I'd also work with B2B. D2C, with what I was offering, which was organic social media, if they didn't see 1 cent or like an immediate return within like a week or two, they wanted to end the service. And like that's fair. But with organic social, it's a longer term momentum building play that has more lasting impact versus ads where it's like dollar in, dollar out. So I was like, I don't like that feeling, because it makes me feel like my service isn't high quality, but it's just, okay, they're the wrong person for this service, the wrong type for this service. Then I started working with B2B brands. They have typically way larger budgets, and their expectations around this, right? Like they're already putting content out and it's not performing the way they want it to, because they're doing the same things that everyone was doing 10 years ago. And so I was like, all right, there's a gap here. I can take what people are doing in the D2C world, where they're typically 2 years ahead, and bring it to B2B and work with clients who are, a little more pleasant to work with. And if they don't see at least an immediate return within 1 day of posting, they're going to be fine. And like when I tell them, hey, it's a 90-day process, they're like, yeah, totally. And at this 90 days, we'll be at a point that you couldn't even imagine before. So that's really why. I was like, I just saw a gap.
Nice. Nice. And what are some of those notable brands that you've worked with so far?
So we're working with right now, which this company, Palo Alto Networks. They're the 132nd largest company in the world, cybersecurity firm based in California. We're working with Clay, working with Trainual, Demandbase. We've worked with Smartsheet, SEMrush, so a bunch of big B2B brands. And really, it's fun because those are names that a lot of people in the space recognize, and like I get to be making an impact on their social time. Like, it's just like a blast.
Yeah, that's that. So, I mean, look, you said it right. Like B2B brands usually do the same play that's been overdone and it's not going anywhere. But humor isn't the first thing people think in B2B marketing, right? Like if you go to the B2B marketing division, right, of a B2B company, whatever it is, I heard a few SaaS names there. So how do you convince them, sort of potential clients, that humor is the way to go, the way to sort of drive real business results?
So there's a couple ways. Sometimes I just literally show them a case study and be like, hey, this company offers, it's literally a B2B SaaS brand, Series B, and we're getting them a lead a day through this. Sometimes I just do that. Most of the times, though, I come at the approach of like, Oracle did this study on humor's impact on like brand recall and retention and your ability to sell. I'll even hit them with some of those facts and like the gaps where I don't remember the specific numbers, but it's like 90% of consumers would buy from a brand again if they use humor in their ads, yet only 18% of CEOs say they're using any sort of humor in their content. So there's a gap there. 90% want it, only 18% are delivering it. So sometimes that way, but I usually just take it from the approach like humor is such a great way to sell to people without them even realizing it. If you lead with humor, lead with entertainment, people's guards are down, and then your message will be way better received once their guards are down. Whereas if you just come in for, here's our service, here's our feature, boom, here's the price, people are gonna be like, no. But if you lead with a little bit of humor, I made a video for Clay 2 days ago, and it was like, I was like acting like I got a tattoo. And I said, I got a tattoo for every qualified lead marketing sent me in Q1. and I'm like removing the soap as if there'd be a tattoo there, and there's no tattoo. And the joke, obviously, is marketing sent me no qualified leads. And then I cut, and then I'm like, I go right into Clay's value prop. So you lead with entertainment, and then people stay for the CTA. So that's like one way. And then a lot of my potential leads are inbound, so they're already aware of the content that I'm creating, and they book a meeting with me, and they already go through a humor-led funnel. And so when they ask me, does this actually work, I kind of just flip it on them. I'm like, what made you book this call? And they're like, well, I saw some of your content, and it was funny because it was funny, and then you told me to book a call. And I'm like, that's what we run with your company, right? We lead with this humor, entertainment, and then we get people to do the action you want them to do. So those are a couple ways. Right. But it is hard. There's a lot of objections.
I can imagine. Like a few things there, right? Are you starring in the videos yourself as well?
Yeah. So it's like 50-50 right now. So I do have a couple creators that are in videos, and I am in some too. Sometimes like a couple, like full transparency, to get demand base, they're like, we want you in every video, and I was like, oh, okay. Let's do it. Nice. I want to work with you, demand base. So I'll be in every video we do. But I am going to bring Seamus. He's one of my creators. Like he's going to be in every video too. And then I had my cousin be a funny little piece. And I have a 14-year-old cousin that was in one of my videos. So I have a team of creators outside of my 14-year-old cousin that are in the videos. But sometimes you got to make some sacrifices to get the bigger brands.
Obviously, I mean, I get the sense that you're enjoying it as well. So I mean, yeah. And if the brand fits, as you said, I want to dig deeper also into some other examples. But so people also listening, right? You know, some people might watch us, but most people will listen to us, and we need to describe a few of these sort of examples more in detail. Before we do that, though, so. Going back to the studies you referenced and the fact that leading with humor can actually drive better results, which I tend to agree with. I think I want to like sort of ask you, how is it for brands if they usually, especially B2B brands, bigger ones, they have a tone of voice defined, right, within their team. And usually that tone of voice, if you're MailChimp, you might have some fun. But most brands, even in SaaS, they don't have a humoristic tone of voice.
Yeah.
So how do you marry those two, right? Like, how do you come and say, like, oh, I'm going to do a humor-based campaign, long-running, a humor-based content plan? How do you sort of marry it with the boring tone of voice that usually, or professional tone of voice that a B2B brand has?
Yeah, you want like, it's a healthy balance. You want this content to stick out in a sense that when people see it, they're like, oh, like Palo Alto Networks, like, I respect this. You really took a swing with this, and it resonates. But you don't want to stick out too much where it's like, this does not feel like Palo Alto Networks. You want it to still feel within brand guidelines. So it just honestly is a bunch of research on the front end. So when we onboard clients, like before we even execute any content, we have multiple forms that I've just built over the last 15 months that collect information that I know we need to be able to make anything remotely of value or impact. So like that kind of saves us. And that really guides us. But with everything, like especially like a Palo Alto Network, they're huge. Honestly, they have more to lose than to gain for most things they try on social media. So one thing like in pitching them is like, hey, your brand is not going to become a joke. That's what happens when you try to execute humor without proper research and you're just trying to get a laugh. We're going to use wit to convey intelligence and understanding to your audience so that when you want to sell to them, they trust you. So that's like one way that like I convey it to our clients, but like straight up to answer your question, it's a bunch of research. They literally give us their brand guidelines. They give us as much as possible. Sometimes we have to sign NDAs to get that information, but like that's how in depth we need. And then we just go into Reddit groups, Facebook groups, and just understand, because no matter how technical or how like buttoned up an industry is, there's still people at the end of the day on the other side of it in their roles, and there's things that make them laugh within their roles. We just have to find those things.
Right, right. Well, that's like a nugget right there. You market to people at the end of the day. So, let's dig into a few examples, right? So, you already shared one for Clay. I'm also curious about examples that really where you can say you can tie it, where humor directly contributed to a client's lead gen efforts or sales growth.
Yeah. So, one of our clients, Trainual, it's a B2B SaaS brand, and they're Series B. We've been working with them since October 2023. So, I launched Snowboarding Brands in October 2023, but didn't do any marketing, had no website, all the way up until December 12th of 2024. So, a little over a year running it like stealthily while I had a full-time job and doing both. But now we just had our Q1 like report with them a week and a half ago, and in the last 90 days we've booked 81 demos from them total across Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And so the content we're creating there, people can just look it up on Instagram. It's just Trainual on Instagram, Trainual. All of the content is hyper focused on their ideal client. So their ideal client, or their ICP, is business owners, CEOs, operators, that type of person. And then their users are also entry-level employees. So it's like a two-sided solution. The software is so that brands can onboard and upskill their employees quickly and delegate efficiently. So all the content's focused around that, but we're not shilling and talking about the product or service. Instead, we're leaning into the pain points that a business owner would feel when they don't have a software like this. And in 2024, we did 125 million organic impressions with them. We tripled their audience. I think we're at 70K on Instagram right now, but across all platforms, we tripled their audience. And like in the last report, we're basically booking them a demo a day. But the reason everything is hyper focused on pain points is so that over time you build this community of people where coincidentally Trainual's product or service solves all their biggest problems. So when you sell to them, you're not selling to an empty room. You're selling to a large quantity of people who need that pain resolved.
Awesome. So, that there's obviously a lot of prep work and research going into this, and a lot of alignment. I'm curious. Are you then managing or mainly working with the brand's own social profiles, or are you doing it on personal profiles, or a combination thereof? And also maybe you can dive deeper into the social platforms that you work with. I mean, you mentioned them a bit.
Yeah. So to answer that last question quickly, we primarily, every client we work with, we're on LinkedIn and Instagram except one. But yeah, LinkedIn and Instagram are our primary channels for all of our clients. And yeah, it depends on the type of engagement with a brand. Someone like Demand Base, for example, they wanted to run a campaign in Q1 and Q2 that targeted marketers. And coincidentally, my audience on my personal account is full of marketers. So I pitched them, hey, we're going to make content for your brand socials, obviously. But I also weaved in, hey, how about we do an additional brand partnership per month? And so now we kind of have a hybrid deal where I have deliverables that I'm giving to their social media manager to post on their channel. And that's like demand-based focus, humor-led, my team's in it, we're editing it. And then I also have some content that's being posted directly on my channels. So there's some hybrid deals. Trainual, for example, that's exclusively I'm creating content for their brand socials. And yeah, that's so it's a mix, but the majority is just like exclusive we're making for their brand socials, unless there's like a coincidence that, the client's audience matches up with my existing audience on LinkedIn.
Makes a lot of sense. I got this quote from your website. I know that you sort of the claim is your agency helps brands move at the speed of culture,
Yeah.
which I found pretty cool. So my thoughts are going like, how do you keep up with trends? You know, moving at the speed, culture moves fast, right?
Yeah.
How do you keep up with trends and translate them into relevant content for your clients?
Yeah, it's kind of weird. So like I am in this social media world, like it's my full-time job, it's how I make a living, but like on a personal level, I have no personal social media. And like when I'm not working, like I'm not really using social media. I'll watch YouTube videos, I'll watch a Spotify podcast, but I really keep an arm's length distance and I prioritize my mental health over everything. So I am honestly not like scrubbing the internet for what is like the hottest and hottest. There's a few accounts that I follow on social media that I'll check in with that I know and trust, like as they really are probably sacrificing their mental health to get these trends, you know. But I can use them as a source. So it's like toting this line. I also like to start trends and I like to bring net new ideas to the timeline, and like create that culture. So a lot of our clients and my best ideas literally will come from when I'm separate from technology or when my team's separate from technology and we're just in a brainstorming session. Like, but the Clay post that I referenced with the tattoo, I had a connection send me this, and it was a sports related post where someone was doing that tattoo removal about someone's lack of championships or whatever. And I was like, oh wait, I can do that. I can apply that to this niche. Let me make this for Clay and see what they think. But yeah, moving at the speed of culture, that just goes back to the piece of the D2C world. The B2C world is typically like a year or two ahead of B2B when it comes to social media. And I'm just trying to bring B2B up to speed a little bit and take from D2C and B2C and give them what they typically haven't been able to do. Like moving at the speed of culture, getting the cultural references, bringing in some net new ideas to the timeline.
That's nice. That's nice. So, you know, when I looked at you, I mainly saw at your website and browsed through campaign. I mainly saw video, but are there any other content formats that you find work well? And like, if you might want to sort of highlight the difference between how they perform.
Yeah. So we do. The majority of our content now is video. Obviously, all the skits we make have to be video. They're video. And then the memes, it's about 70-30. 70% of our memes are video memes. 30% are static. The static is still pretty dominant on LinkedIn. So that's what we use our static memes for. So we have a few clients that we're posting static memes for. Keeper app, it's a cool bookkeeping project management software. Pod pitch, like, so we are definitely doing static, and it's for mainly LinkedIn, but we are weaving in video on LinkedIn as well. But yeah, video is just dominating. Even LinkedIn is going more video as well.
Yeah, everybody's having the real format.
Yeah.
So, and are there any sort of strategies that you've seen, work well across all platform or various platforms, or do you sort of would you advocate for, each platform would need its own play?
So, what I would advocate for is, like, if you're a marketer on a small marketing team, what I would do is just do the front end research and only be on the channels that your like target audience actually hangs out on. So like most B2B brands, like you don't need to be on TikTok really, because you can be on LinkedIn and get the same impact. You can be on Instagram and get a larger impact. So that's the first thing I would do is prioritize the platforms that your audience hangs out on, and then just try a bunch of different formats. So like social media is literally just a gigantic test and learn and just throwing stuff at the wall, seeing what sticks, do more of what worked and do less of what didn't. And so that's just how I would approach it. Like we see the humor approach to this content work across all platforms. It's one of the reasons why I didn't position my agency as a meme agency, is because I don't necessarily believe in, I don't think memes are the most impactful thing on the timeline. I think humor is, and I think humor is greater than just memes. And I think memes are super impactful right now, but maybe in 3 years that might be different. There's a bunch of different content formats with under this umbrella of humor. So that's why the agency's positioned that way, because humor translates across all platforms. Also, another great content format, if you look at people like Brian Bloom on LinkedIn or Instagram, or Alex Garcia, these guys who are doing talking head style green screen video breakdown and analysis of brands, that works flawlessly across Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn. I just don't have the time or energy to scale that up for myself and for clients, but that's another thing. Like green screen video breakdowns, those are tough to make though. A lot of scripting, a lot of editing. You need a lot of expertise.
Yeah, so they're resource intensive, but you would say that's one way to go.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. So so Aidan, yeah, I mean we've touched upon a few things here. I do want to get your thoughts on also where the industry is going as a whole. I mean, obviously this works for you, for your clients. You're providing value. How do you assess sort of the evolution? Is you know, it's right now humor is still seen as risky in marketing. How do you see its role evolving, right, in the B2B space over the next few years? Is it a trend, and how do you think about it?
The way I would like to see it happen and transpire is it just continues to slowly build mental real estate in B2B decision makers' minds. And it's not just like a fad where people are like, everyone adopts it and then everyone ditches it. Like thought leadership with your leadership team within B2B is kind of it's just slowly been adopted consistently over the last 8 years. And now it's pretty prominent and it's got a stranglehold and like everyone's pretty much doing it. That's kind of how I hope to see this humor led approach, because I think a downside, like one of the biggest upsides of humor, is the differentiation it gives you and the mental real estate you're able to carve out because you're doing something that probably not many other people are doing. But if you look at industries like insurance, at least in the United States, like there's these insurance companies, State Farm, Geico, Allstate. They're all dominant. They're all about the same size, and they all just do humor marketing. And at that point, it is kind of nulled. They're all pretty funny, but when you think of an insurance company, none stand out. So I'd like it to stay in this point of like where it's slowly, gradually being adopted, but not everyone, like adopting it immediately and everyone on the planet starting to post memes immediately, just for that differentiation piece. I also think like a little more higher production video and content is going to swing back and become more prominent. I think the last 5 years it's been, you just get an iPhone, you just record, and like that's cool, you'll go viral. But I think a little bit more production now has some differentiation on the timeline to stand out, and people are like, oh, so that's what really good lighting it looks like and a really good camera looks like. That's pretty cool. So that's something I'm trying to actively do, like up my production, especially with the skits. So yeah.
That is kind of interesting because it's sort of like a pendulum swing, that goes in cycles, like most things. Looking back when I started my first company in 2007, high production was like all the rage. So yeah. and so little companies could afford it, and over the last 10 years it's been all the more authentic you can be, and the lower the quality, the more pixelated it is, the more authentic you are, sort of. But now, so what you're saying is the pendulum swings back to higher production value.
Yeah, I almost feel like docu-series or documentaries might even like that vibe, but in a short form concept. I think that has a lot of opportunity.
Nice. Very interesting. And how does, like, I have to touch upon AI, right?
Yeah.
We're in this crazy hype cycle of AI. So I want to get your thoughts on how do you incorporate AI in what you do? Is AI changing content creation for you in any way? Is it impacting the status quo in your field?
Yeah, so uh, with all I have a team of meme creators. I have 5 meme creators, and so with each of them, I just showed them a simple workflow of how I use ChatGPT to prompt ideas, and just always as a resource for me. So when you're working with 10 brands at a time, and my meme creators are on multiple brands at once, creating different content for extremely different industries, the switching costs that can be hard. But when you have something like ChatGPT and you use these new project features where you have a folder for demand base, and you have a folder for clay, and then you have a folder for Trainual, so that you can, all right, I'm going to spend 30 minutes with Trainual, and then you just prompt Trainual. It's like, all right, what's their ICP again? You ask ChatGPT, it's like, oh, they're targeting CEOs, business owners. And it's like, oh, yeah, that's right. What are their top pain points? And then that's the way I use ChatGPT. That's the way my team uses ChatGPT, is just using the new projects, uploading all the information we get from our client, and just like that they give in the form of like who they're targeting, why they're targeting them, and that type of thing. And then just having ChatGPT prompt us potential ideas. We're not asking ChatGPT to make us memes. We just need concepts and seed ideas that we can run with. That's one way we use AI. We use Canva a lot. They have a cool tool called Magic Media. I use that for brands who are wary of copyright. And typically it's the larger brands who don't want to use viral meme templates because most of the time they're copyrighted. So we use Magic Media, which is just like you can generate your own AI image, and it's a fun way to quickly like make a meme and using AI. So those are the 2 main things we use.
Nice. So you get to a point where you run a campaign, you run a content strategy, it's successful, it drives eyeballs, reactions, interactions, engagement. If you think about sort of the next steps in the funnel, from the examples that you gave, and maybe other clients that you have, where do you send them next, right? Where do those potential leads go? Do they go to the website? Is there a funnel build? Is it a simple form? How do you handle that?
So one of the things I always just ask clients, because it depends, is like, what's your North Star with this engagement? Like, what would be the dream scenario when working with no boring brands? And it depends. Like, some of like Palo Alto networks, honestly, they don't necessarily need any more brand awareness. They don't need any conversions through their Instagram. Like, they're already one of the biggest companies in the world. They kind of want something that they can just, differentiate themselves with on the timeline a little bit, and just have something maybe they can show leadership or internal cultural building. People can be happy, like, oh, look at my company's posting. Versus Trainual, they're at this growth stage, and they're like, we want a ton of eyeballs. We want this brand awareness, and if it converts, great. And then I have some that's like, don't even think about conversions. Maximum number of eyeballs in our niche as possible. And then there's some that's like, we only care about conversions. If these posts get 100 views, but we're getting 10 conversions a month, great. So it's just establishing that with them initially. And then, my service is very narrow. This is the top of funnel. Like, I obviously have experience building and working with like a full funnel approach. Did it with the marketing millennials. That's how we got most of our newsletter subscribers, was memes online, funnel into a newsletter. We would get advertisers to sponsor the newsletter. That's how we'd make money. And then we'd get them to join our community, which is a paid community. So I was involved in that. But with my clients, I'm mainly just involved in super top of funnel stuff. And if I notice there's some things in their funnel that like I can help them out with with Trainio a week and a half ago, I would just ask them questions about one section of their funnel, and I think we worked it out. But I usually let them, like, they have teams and like they're experts, so I don't want to step on their toes. I know I'm an expert in stuffing top of funnel, and bridging that is like something that the existing team takes over a little bit more.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thanks for that. So, I want to ask you two pieces of advice, or at sort of moving towards the end. But on the one side, there might be a lot of startups, maybe even smaller brands. I know SaaS brands are tuning in, and what would you give them as an advice, looking for these type of brands looking to increase their marketing game, stand out from the competition?
So yeah, I mean, I'd start everything with like focus on revenue generating activities. Once you have those locked down, then you can play around with like an experiment and everything. But what I would do is, if first make sure your existing team can take on this like experimental phase of maybe incorporating humor, and like make sure you're not going to cause them to burn out. Those are like the two first things. But I would just like, don't overthink it. Like the people that work, like if you work at a company that's super niche, you probably get the funny points and pain points that you can kind of poke fun at with your target customer, and like, throw a meme up there once every 10 days or whatnot. And definitely avoid two things. Don't ever punch down. So don't make fun of anyone that can't defend themselves in the moment, and definitely don't make fun of your customers. Like, that's just not smart. And avoid politics, right? Like, everyone's got super strong opinions. Like, there's really minimal upside, and memes kind of sometimes cross both those borders if they're done wrong. So those are, and humor in general. So I would just avoid those. And yeah, like, set an hour off on the side and just think, and just like, what's a unique way we could sell to someone without them realizing we're selling to them? How can we lead with humor? How can we lead with entertainment? And then cut to a CTA that they're way more receptive to. Yeah, like I would even take that to a full funnel approach. Like with my funnel of how I get leads, like my DM strategy is fully aligned with that idea of leading with entertainment or leading with humor, and just not trying to pitch slap. So yeah, I don't know if I directly answered your question, but those are some things I'd think about.
No, definitely. There were some great points there. And there's always a fine line and a potential to like slip into an area like politics with this type of content, and to be mindful of that, because that's an area where it kind of, at least in our times, it got really binary in terms of opinion, and then you'd be hard to sort of cut the middle ground. So look, Aidan, you have an amazing roster of companies. You've started with a bang, I would say. So maybe my last question is, what's one piece of advice you wish you had when starting this agency?
That is a really good question. Like I'm definitely grateful. I had Daniel Murray is like he's my mentor, and like he owns 3 7-figure companies, and he's 32. So like I just spent a lot of time around him, and I could see, right, like he wasn't getting as much sleep as he probably could if he just had a regular job. Like he's stressed, like his weekends he's working. So I got to see, like, all right, if I want to make this leap, I'm probably going to have to be similar to that. I would say, like, one piece of advice, I don't even know. Like, I'm still like newish to the full-time role. It's just like having to sign fronts of checks and like pay people before you pay yourself. I would say, like, be prepared for that. Like that's like a cool, like it's cool, but it's also like a pill swallower of like, oh geez, this money came in and it is going right back out. So that's one thing I would have liked to be a little bit more prepared for when launching.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great piece of advice. So thank you for being so honest and open about it. I think a lot of us founders we tend to sort of forget that, but in the early days, and you don't put yourself first. So and you yeah,
Like at
so
all.
at all. So, but that's what it takes. So amazing, Aidan. No Boring Brands is on to a bright future, and thank you for being here. I hope you enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah.
And for all the listeners, you'll find more about Aidan and No Boring Brands in the show bio. Tune in for our next episode. Thank you again for joining us, Aidan. Take care.
Thank you for having me. I had a blast.